So after that, let's go to the identity section and work on it. So we need to add our identity here. So we use the builder.services dot. I go to the next line to be cleaner. So I use .add identity. That's it. Inside this add identity, we must say that what is the type of our user and our role. So normally you will use identity user and identity role. This is it. You must use this identity user and identity role by default. But because we are using application, let me show you again. We create an entity of application user and we inherited from this identity user. So we simply use this application user. So let's use the application user here instead of our identity user. That's it. And after this add identity with application user and identity role, we need to add some stores. So we use .add entity framework stores, and for the storing them we use application db context. That's it. And after that we can also add some default token providers, which is provided by default with the identity package, and that's so good. So this is for the adding identity to our services. And after that we need to configure our identity. So let's add some configurations. For example, builder.services.configure, and for this configuration we can say that it is an generic of identity options, and we receive some options, and we can have a lot of configurations in. Let's type it again. Okay, so what we can have, for example, we can have options dot. You can see that we have store, sign in, claims, password, logout, user, and anything you want. For example, I want to say that for the options dot password dot required digit, required length. You can see, for example, for the required length we can use 8. Let's copy paste it, and after that I say that for the options dot password dot required digit is false, and also let's copy paste, and after required digit we can say that for the required lowercase is again false, and also require uppercase is false. So this is it. I'm just showing you that you can use any configuration you want. So after digit we have lowercase and uppercase, and after the uppercase you can use require non-alphanumeric is false. So we are saying that all of them can be false. That's good. And also after them let's work on the sign in. So options dot sign in dot require confirm. We can confirm the phone number and the account, the email. So for the account use a false, and let's copy paste, and also let's say for the require confirm email is again false. Let's copy paste, and also for the phone number we say it is false, but you can use them. So this is it. You can see that we can have some configurations for our identity. I'm showing you that you can use any of them that you want, and that's so good. So let's cut some of these, and after that we want to add authentication schema and JWT bearer. So here we need to have some configurations, and we need some strings, but instead of using them here, it is better idea to use them in application setting.json, like what we have done for our connection string, so we can change them later on the server. So first let's create them on our app setting.json. Let's go to the app setting.json, and here we can create them. So let's create another key with name of JWT, and this JWT can be an object, and inside of that we can use a valid issuer, which can be any issuer you want, and also a valid audience, which can be anything, and also we can have a secret So this is what we want. We will compare it later. So let's go back to our program.cs and use them. So we need to add something to our services. So we say builder.add authentication. So we need to add some authentication, and also we need to add JWT bearer to it. This is the structure of it. So for the authentication, what can we have? We can have some options, and for these options we can use options.default schema would be JWT bearer defaults dot authentication schema. That's it. Let's copy paste it, and after that, for the default authentication schema, we again use JWT bearer defaults.authentication schema. Let's copy paste it, and also for the default challenge schema we use it. So this is the authentication configurations we needed, and after that let's work on add JWT bearer. This is so important, so let's create it. So we can receive some options, and for these options we can say that options.saveToken equals to true. It has a lot of configurations. For mastering all of them, you need to go to the documents and read all of the documents of it, but we will use the vital ones here in this project. So after that, let's use options.require HTTPS metadata equals to false. We don't need it. And also let's have some options.token validation parameters, and would be the token validation parameters, which is Microsoft.identityModel.tokens.token validation parameters. And here we can have some validations. For example, we say validate issuer equals to true. It will be checked. And also validate the audience. Audience would be true. And also we can use a valid issuer, and we can say that what is a valid issuer? So valid issuer. So we want to use a builder.configurations of. We created this, so instead of using a simple string here, we can use it on the app setting, and we can change it on the server later. So we say that for the JWT, and your name is going to be the JWT valid issuer. So let's use this name to be sure that we don't have any error. So this is the valid issuer. And after that, we can have a valid audience. So the valid audience would be the builder.configuration of JWT. Builder.configurations of JWT and valid audience. And let's copy this name here to be sure that we don't have any error. So good. So we use this valid audience, and for the issuer sign-in key, which is really important, we create a new symmetric security key of encoding .utf-8 get bytes of. Let's copy this builder.configuration because we want to use it. And here we use this secret. So we use this secret name. That's it. Here let's add semicolon, and here let's have another semicolon, and I think it's completed. So for the builder.service.add authentication, we use these, and for the JWT bearer, we are using these configurations. Now let's create this valid issuer and valid audience and the secret for our project. So let's run our project to see it again. Can we see it, or we have error? Cannot create a model.token symmetric key length. Okay, no problem. Let's go to the app setting and here create them. So for the valid issuer, you can use any name you want. For example, HTTPS equals to the name of your server. I simply use a local host. Let's check its IP name later. And for the valid audience, I want to use an HTTPS equals to / localhost port 3000, which is the React standard port. For the secrets, you can use any name you want. I simply copy paste a string here, and it is a powerful secret for our front end. That's it. Let's go to the properties, launch setting, and here let's check HTTPS. So here it seems that we have 7237. Let's copy this IP because this is the default IP for our localhost on HTTPS. So let's go to the app setting and use this port here. So we say that this is what we want to be our valid issuer. For valid audience would be localhost port of 3000. That's good. For the secret, it's it. So let's close it and close launch setting and this. So in the program.cs we created this. Now let's start it to see do we have any error or not. That's good. We don't have any error, but no operation defined in the spec because we don't have any controller. But you can see that our server would be run on localhost port 7237. That's good. Now let's start. I think it's good for now, and in the program.cs we added authentication schema and JWT bearer. And after that, in the final part here, before authorization, we use app.authentication. That's it. Now we can use authentication and authorization in our project. So we want to have a controller. So let's go to the controllers and add a new controller. It would be an API controller, API empty, and the name would be auth. So auth controller. That's it. And also let's create another controller. So let's add a new, sorry, not class, add new controller. So it would be an API controller empty. So after auth controller, we need to have a logs controller. That's it. And also let's have another one. So add API controller empty. Good. We can have a message controller. So we have auth controller, logs controller, message controller, and also let's have another test one. Sorry, not class. Add controller, API, add. So the name would be test controller. That's it. Let's close all of them. So we are going to create an auth controller, a logs controller, and a message controller. But in this project, we want to use dependency injection. So we don't use the business logics in our controllers. We create some interfaces and some services, and we will use them. So let's create them. Let's go to the interfaces and create a new class. So here we need to choose interface, and let's delete its name. And the name of this would be auth service. Let's add it. So this is the interface for our authentication. And what we need to have in this interface, we need to create some functions, and we will inherit from this auth service in the auth service, and we will implement them. So the first one would be a task, and this task would return a general service response DTO. Let's use DTO.general. Yeah, that's it. So the first one would be a seed roles async, because we want to have a function for seeding our database on the initial. That's it. Let's copy paste it. So the second one would return a task with general service response DTO, and the name would be the register async. And what we need to receive in it, we need to have a register DTO of registered DTO. That's it. Let's copy paste. So after this, again, we want to have a task, but for the return, we use a login service response DTO, and the name of it would be the login async, and we receive a login DTO. This is it. So this is for the after register, we implement the login functionality, and after that, let's copy paste it again. So after that, we need to have again a general service. What is the problem? General service response DTO of the next would be the update role async function, and inside of that we need to receive a claims principal user and also a update role DTO of update role DTO. So inside of this update role async, we receive the update role DTO and the user, which has the type of claims principal, and you will see that under the controller. So let's copy paste it again. After this general service response of update role async, again we need to receive a task of login service response DTO, and the name would be me async, and here we just need to send me DTO of me DTO to this function. Let's copy paste it again. After that, we need to have another task, but the return time would be the enumerable of user info result, and the name would be get users list async, and that's it. We don't need to receive anything, but we just return the enumerable of user info result. That's it. So let's copy paste it again, and after this get users list async, we need to have another one, but for this type of the return, we just return one user info result, and for the name of it, we will use get user details by username, and we will just send the string of username to it. And after that, let's copy this and paste it here. So again, we have a task of enumerable of a string of get username list async. So we will use this later in our front-end project. So let's check them one by one. We created an interface for our authentication service, and we'll use this interface in our controller because of dependency injection. If you are not sure why we are using this, let me know in the comments and we can have another tutorial for it. But our focus in this tutorial is just on security and JWT. So we have a seed roles async, we have a register async, we have a login async, we have an update role async, we have a me async, we have a get user list async, get user details by username, and also a get username list async. That's it. So this was for our auth service. Now let's create another interface, add a new class, and here we choose interface. So after this auth service, we want to have another one for log. So let's create log service, of log service. Let's add it. That's good. This is another interface. So let's create a new task, and the task would be save new log, and what we need to receive inside of it, we need to receive a string of username and also a string of description. That's it. So what is the error? Yeah, this is it. So we have a task of save new log with a string of username and a string of description, and after that, let's have another task which returns enumerable of get log DTO, and the name would be the get logs async without any input, and let's copy paste it. So the next one is again a task with enumerable of get logs DTO, but this time it is get my logs async, and we will receive a claims principal of user. That's it. So this is the interface of our iLog service. We'll implement it later. It has three functions: save new log, get logs async, and get my logs async. Let's create the last interface, which was for our message. So let's create a new class interface and use the name of iMessageService. So this is the next interface. Here, first let's create a new task with return of general service response DTO. The name would be create new message async with claims principal of user, and also a create message DTO of create message DTO. And after that, let's create a new task with enumerable of get message DTO, and the name would be get message async. That's it. Let's copy paste it, and we receive again another task of enumerable of get message DTO with the name of get my message async, and it will receive the claim principal of user. Let's copy it from here and paste it here. And I think it's okay. So let's create some services for them, but before that, let's have a quick overview. So we create the iAuth service, and we have some functions. We will implement them. So after that, we have iLog service, and we have iMessageService. That's it. So let's create services and use them. Let's close these. So let's go to the services and add a new class. So I want to create a new class with name of LogServices, because the log is the first one we need. So this is a class which names is LogService, and we need to inherit from iLogService. That's it. When we inherit from this interface, we need to implement its functions. So if you can see that if I press Ctrl dot, it shows that you can implement interfaces. If I press enter, you can see that I have all of these. So I have these get logs async, get my logs async, and save new token. Save new log. So I want this to be on the top of the list. So I will cut it and paste it here. That's good. In order to working with the logs, we need to have access to our context. So let's create it. It's so easy. We can create a private read only of application context of underline context, and we need to inject it here using dependency injection. We can simply use Ctrl dot, and we generate a constructor, and we receive this context and work with it. And in order to using this context, let me show you in Program.cs. Here we are injecting that application DB context to our services. So in each service, I can simply receive it inside of my constructor and use it here as this underline context, which is a private read only. That's so good. So let's work on it. The first thing is we have a public task of save new log of a string of username and a string of description. Because it's a task, we need to change it to an async function, and that's it. So let's create a new log inside of it, and we can simply say var of new log equals to a new log entity. And what is the value? So we need to receive a username. This username would be this username that we are receiving, and also for the description, it would be description. That's it. So we created a new log here, and we use a weight of underline context dot logs dot add new log, but instead of add we can use add async. It's better. So it would be an async, and that's much more better. So we use await of underline context that logs that add async of new log. And after that, let's save everything. So we use await of underline context dot save change async, and we don't return anything because it's just a simple task. We don't want to return anything. It's just a task. That's it. So let's continue. After that, I have the get logs async and get my logs async. So let's work on them inside of get logs async. Let's delete this. And here we can simply create our logs. So I say var logs equals to await of underline context. From the context, we receive the logs. Let's go to the next line to be cleaner. So we need to select some field from them. So let's use a select. We say that you need to receive the queue, and for each one you will create a new get log DTO, and for each one you can have a created that which equals to queue.created at. And also you can have the description which is queue.description, and also you can have the username which equals to queue.username. And after that, so it seems that we have some problem. Let's check them. We selected queue, new get log DTO, and here we created add description username. Okay, let's continue for now. And after that, we can use dot order by descending. So we want to order it. So we use queue where queue dot created at. So we are ordering by created at. Then we finally say go to the final version, which is to list of async. That's it. So we selected some of our fields and we created them as our new result, and we ordered them by the created async. Then we return them with this command dot to list async, and after that we can simply return logs. That's it. So I think it's okay, and let's continue to the next one. So this was the get logs async. Let's go to the get my logs async. Let's delete this. So for my logs, we want to return all of the logs that are belongs to me. So you know what? Let's copy all of these because it's exactly like the get logs async. So let's copy all of them and work on it. So for the logs, we say that the logs is await of underline context that logs that select the queue where queue is new get log DTO where created add and queue. Okay, everything, it seems that everything is okay, but let's add an async here to avoid this error. That's good. But the only thing is we need to select all of the logs that belongs to me. How we can do this? It's too easy. Before this select, let's add a var close to it. So we use a var and we say that var queue goes to queue.username equals to user. We are receiving the user from the controller, which is a claims principal, and inside of the user.identity.name we have the username of the user is logged in. So we say that logs equals to await of underline context.logs where queue goes to queue.username equals to user.identity.name. Then we select queue where goes to new and get log DTO. We created add description username, order it, and to list it and return it. So let's close this. I think the log service is completed. So let's close it and we'll work on it later. Just we need to inject it to our services. So inside of the program.cs, let's inject it. We say that builder.services.add. We can use some dependency injection methods. For example, we can use add scope or add singleton or add transient. This is it. So we use a scope. That's it. So we say that we want to use log service and log service. This is it. So this line would say to the ASP.NET that for the log service you need, for the log service interface, you need to resolve it with this log service. That's so good. So let's continue. What we have done, we created our interfaces, and we just created our log service. So let's create the next one and let's add a new class to it. So what is the name? After the log service, we can use the message service. Let's add it. That's good. So again, inside of this message service, we need to inherit. So let's inherit from I message service. And you know that when we are inheriting, we need to use control dot and implement the interface. So we need to implement this one and also this one. So as always, first let's add the DB context. So let's use a private read only of application DB context of underline context, and let's use control dot and use generate constructor. So in the constructor we receive this. That's good. And also after the context, we need to access to two different services. The first one, let me add them one by one. So let's add a private read only of I log service, because we need to use the log service inside of our message service. So this is the way we are using it. We use the interface of this logger and we add it to our constructor. So let's press Ctrl dot and say add parameters. That's it. So you can see that how it is working. We use this ilog service inside of the constructor and we inject this. Sorry, this is not it. It is ilog service, but the name must be log service, not log. I want to use this name. Let's press Ctrl dot again. Generate constructor. What happened? No, we don't want to generate a new constructor. We need to say add it. So it seems that we have a problem. Let's delete this constructor again, and on the context, let's press Ctrl dot and say the generate constructor. This is it. After that, we need to press Ctrl dot and say it must be added, but it seems that let's cut it from here and paste it here. Private thread only of ilog service of log service. No, press Ctrl dot and we must have add parameter. Yeah, this is it. Add parameter to our constructor. So we are receiving this log service, which is the type of ilog service, and it would be injected into our project, into our service using this. That's it. So this is it. After that, also we need to have the user manager. So let's add it. We can have a private read only of the user manager, which is coming from Microsoft.ASP.NET Core.Identity that we installed, and the type of it must be an application user, and we use name of user manager for it, and also we can receive it in our constructor. So let's add parameter to our service. Now you can see that in constructor we're receiving the context and log service and user manager, and all of them are injecting to our services in Program.cs. So let me show you that. In here we added this identity builder.services that add identity. We added the identity and we can simply receive them in any controller or any service or any constructor that we have. That's so good. So we added application DB context, good. We added the user manager and we added the log service, and we are receiving them in our constructor. That's so good. So after that, let's work on our functions. The first one is create a new message async. We are receiving the claims principal of user and the create message DTO. That's it. So let's first have some validations. So we will check that if the user dot identity dot name is equal to create message DTO dot receiver username. So this is not a good situation. So we simply return a new general service response DTO, and this is where I want to use that general response. That's good. So the first thing is for the x access, we say it is false. We can check this on the controller, and also for the status code we can use 400 or any other status code you want, and we can have a message. For example, I want to have this message. Let me copy that. It would be faster. So for the message, we can send sender and receiver cannot be the same. And here we can use this. So what is the problem? We don't need this because it's just a simple return. That's it. So if the user.identity.name equals to create message DTO.receiver username, we can simply return a new general service and response DTO. We have is success equals to false, and we have a status code of 400, and also we can have a message. So it seems that we have error. So let's use an async here, and the error will be gone. That's good. So what it said, this async method lacks await. Yes, it's not a problem. We'll use that await later. So this was our first validation. We checked that if the name of the sender equals the name of the receiver, we will receive this error and it will not be processed. So let's continue. After that, let's create a new variable name is receiver username valid. So we need to validate the name of the receiver name. So if the receiver name is not valid and it is not in our database, we will return a new exception or a new bad situation. So let's use the underline user manager dot user. Here we are using that user manager dot any. So we search that, we receive for all of them, we receive the queue, and we say that if queue dot username equals to create message DTO dot receiver user. This is it. So we will search on the database for it, and after that we say that if it is false, so if not of is receiver valid, we return a new response. Let's copy this response quickly and use it. So what we are going to do, we are returning a new general service in these situations, and you can use curly braces, but when you just have one written, you don't need curly braces, then you can say that your is success false, the status code is 400, and for the message you can simply return the sender and the receiver username is not valid. That's it, else we can continue. So let's create a new message of new message. We create a new message after that, and we need to use the sender username. The sender would be the user dot identity dot claim. So by using the username dot identity dot name, by using this line, we will be sure that the username of the sender would be the name of the user that logged into the system. That's so good. Also, after the sender, we have the receiver. So the receiver username would be the create message DTO dot receiver username, and also we have the text, which would be the create say DTO dot text. That's it. So we created a new message. Now we can add it to system. So we use await of underline context dot message dot add async of this new message. That's so good. After that, we can save to our database. So await of underline context dot save change async. So after this, I want to have a new log to my database to say that I have a new message. So this is it. Let's use await of underline LogService. So this is how we can use a service in another service in ASP.NET Core. So we call save new log. For the user, we send the user dot identity dot name, and also for the description, we can use send message. This is the log that we are saving in our database. So after that, we can return. So let's copy this return because everything is done successfully, and after this, we can return a new general service response DTO. If success this time would be true, and the status code would be 201. And for the message, let me copy that and we say the message saved successfully, and that's it. So let's cut the extra spaces and save everything. That's good. So we implemented this create new message async. Let's minimize it, and also let's go to the next function, which is get me async, and also get messages async. So in the messages, we need to return the messages. So let's do it. We say var of message equals to await of. You see that async was added automatically because it's a task. So we use await of underline context dot messages. Let's go to the next line and use select. So we're selecting the field we want. So for each one, we create a new message DTO of get. So we create a new get message DTO, and for the ID we use q.id. Good. For the sender username we use q.sender username. Then for the receiver username we use q.receiver username. For the text we use q.text. Also let's return the created add, which equals to no, not this, q.created add. That's it. So after that, let's have an order by dot order by descending, and we will order them by q.q. created add of descending dot to list async. That's it. So this is the message we want to return to our front end. Let's simply return this message. That's it. So you can see that the type of it would be enumerable of get message DTO. And this is the get message async. So I think it's good. Then let's have the get my message async. So again, like the logs, you saw that it was like the all of the logs. So here, like the logs, my message is like the message. So let's copy all of them from here and paste them. And the only different thing is we need to have the name of our logged in user. So let's see what is the user. We say that var of logged in user equals to user dot identity dot name. So this is the username. We need to return the names which return the message which belongs to this username. So for the message we can use all of them, but with a new var. So here let's add public async of task to avoid this error. So good. So we have the logged in user. So when we are sending this message to the front end, we need to add some filters to them. So after this line, let's add a var clause. Here we will say that you received all of them, and you say that if the sender username equals to logged in user, or q dot receiver username equals to logged in user. This is it. Then you select it. So that's it. So after this, we select all of them and we return them. Let's save all of them. That's good. And I think everything is okay, and we implemented all of what we wanted in our message services.